It's my pleasure to introduce Kate, who has an action-packed and very detailed presentation about sort of APIs. Which comes first, really? Is it the chicken or the egg? You know, the standard or the implementation, the documentation or the update, really? We live in a technological world that's growing so fast that a lot of the time sort of standards and documentation, they really don't sort of keep pace with interfaces. And how do you rise above this, and how do you get visibility? Should your interface embrace and extend, or sort of go from carte blanche? So Kate's going to give us all the answers, and I know she's got a lot of slides, so I'm going to stop now and let her get straight into it.
Thanks. Yep. Welcome. My name is Kate Pietrelli. To give you a little bit of background on me, I've been working in marketing on both the B2B and B2C side for the last 10 years. My first games industry job was at Shockwave.com on the marketing side. I then went over to Triple Point, the PR agency. I worked with Social Gold, a payments platform that was acquired by Google while I was working with them. Vicious Cycle software on the Vicious engine, and I also worked on some consumer products like Lego, Lego Universe, Silk Road Online from Joymax. And then I went over to High Five, the social gaming platform, worked at World Golf Tour on retention and loyalty marketing, and then I currently work with Amplifier, they have an impact video ad network product, and also EveryPlay, a mobile replay sharing product. And I also work with Playnomics, which are the leaders in data science and marketing for games. So that's enough about me. So we're here to talk about marketing APIs and SDKs, and I specifically call this out rather than saying service providers, because in the world of APIs and SDKs, developers have to integrate with your product, and it takes their time and effort, and it's just kind of a different approach to marketing, and it's a lot more challenging. So you've created your product, and you're ready to go to market with it. So this is the overview of all the studios in the world, and it looks like there's a lot of opportunity here. According to Game Developer magazine, there are over 10,000 studios worldwide in 74 countries. Recent consensus found that there were 47,000 professionals in the US alone, over 12,000 in Canada, 600 studios in the US alone. So there's a lot of opportunity. Additionally, Reuters published some research that the market is growing in terms of revenue. We're supposed to hit $72 billion in 2015. So this is the market that there's a huge opportunity to reach. So why is it so challenging for developers to get other companies to adopt their APIs and SDKs? Because it's crowded. It's extremely crowded. And this is just a snapshot of all the companies out there. And you know, there's a lot of different buckets, and obviously a lot of them cross over as well, where they might offer analytics services and they also offer marketing services. So as you can see, there's a lot of different companies to choose from, and when developers look at what's out there, it can be very confusing. So how do you differentiate yourself in this space? Well, we're going to take a look at marketing today. You know, people talk about the 5 Ps of marketing, or the 7 Ps. These are the ones that I decided to highlight today. We're going to focus on positioning and promotion, but I also really like to highlight people. I think it's really important in our space to understand that it's a relationship-driven industry, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to work with some amazing people in business development and account management that help make these deals happen and get APIs and SDKs actually integrated. Because it takes a lot of hand-holding to bring people on board and to adopt your platform. I just can't emphasize enough, hiring the right people is a huge part of that. So in terms of positioning and promotion, these are kind of my 5 go-to plays in marketing. Messaging, leveraging flagship customers, meeting with the press, thought leadership programs, and lead generation programs. And this is what we're going to cover today. So talking about the beta phase, it's never too early to start your campaigning in a sense, and to optimize. So you might be coming from the perspective that you're getting ready for a launch and you're ready to talk to the public about it. And there's an opportunity there to hone your messaging in that beta phase. Alternatively, you might be in a beta phase where it's way too early. Maybe you're in an alpha stage, or you're not really in a place where you want other competitors to know what you're working on. But it's still an opportunity to optimize what your messaging is, and we're going to jump into that a little bit. So first of all, with your messaging, the first approach as you're shaping this is thinking about your target audience. Are you talking to a C-level executive in a large company? Or are you talking to an independent developer in a studio where he's wearing many different hats? it's really important to think about who it is that you're trying to reach and convince, because if you think that your product's for everybody and everybody's going to get it, it's just not the case. There are specific targets that you're going after. Then you need to really shape what your value proposition is. I would go for 3 to 5 values, anything more than that, and it just is difficult for people to remember. So when you're thinking about this, what are the challenges for your target audience? Is it time, money? Do they not, challenges they need to understand their customers more, and then kind of work back towards that. So for example, when I was at High Five, one of the challenges that developers had at the time was that they were not getting enough visibility on Facebook. And Facebook had just announced that they were going to take 30% of their revenue. So that was an opportunity for us to say, okay, well, our message here is that we're going to provide a new revenue stream, because now, Facebook is taking our cookies. So we're going to give you more cookies. So we held on to that message, and that worked really well for us. And then what can you do to test it? Even in the beta phase, even if you're not really going public yet, what you can do is you can target several different customers in email and see which response you get. I'll talk a little bit later about a specific email campaign. But you can test it through email, or you can test it in person as you're figuring out what key messages, what value propositions work best, so that when you go to your launch, you have more effective messaging. Secondly, leverage your flagship customers. So who are flagship customers? They're companies that have credibility and visibility already in the industry. And if you're in a beta phase or an early stage in your company where you haven't yet really established yourself, leveraging the credibility of other partners can help you get more traction and get more credibility as a result. So if you're in that phase and you're working with a couple key partners, what you can do is you can approach them and ask if they'd be willing to provide a testimonial quote, participate in interviews at your launch, perhaps, speak with you on a panel at an event. Can you leverage them in your promotional materials, such as their logo or a key quote? So I highly recommend that. So now you're going into your launch phase, and it's a different time. You're at a point where you really need to ramp up. You get customer visibility, grow your business, grow your revenue, and you really want to get the awareness out there. So we're going to cover some of those tactics. First, this play is in the public relations category. So what I've highlighted here is a specific campaign. We were leading up to an open beta launch, and so what we decided to do was pre-brief a series of press that were important to us, that reached our target audience with their publications. These are just some of the ones that were relevant here, and they also happen to have some folks here at the show, so I picked them out on purpose. And what we did is we pre-briefed them, we showed them a demo, we talked about the successes that our customers had had in the closed beta, and at the time of the open launch, we got about 5 or 6 articles published, which is great. 5 to 10 is really nice around one particular key launch initiative, which drove users to the site, which you can kind of see from a small little spike right there. But additionally, our CEO and VP of Business Development reported back that they'd received some additional phone calls and emails congratulating us from our investors, from our current customers, and from new customers that were interested in learning more about the platform. That's the result that you really want to achieve with that type of initiative. So play number 4 is a little bit more long tail. It's not going to all happen at once, as much as we would like it to. This could be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, ongoing, driving thought leadership. And what is this? This is really building the credibility of your team, showing off the key executives and the expertise and knowledge that you bring. And why is this important? Because your customers want to know that you have a specific expertise that they can learn and gain from. So this comes from speaking at conferences, from presentations, from interviews, editorial, to get more visibility for your key team members. So I wanted to highlight a specific example. So often when we're talking about events, people think about, well, when does it actually make sense to start spending budget on an event or a sponsorship or a party, and what are we going to get out of this? So the guy on the right, in the white, Mawashi, was my former boss, Alex St. John at High Five. This is a good sport on this. I've been working at the company for about 5 weeks. We had just brought this team together. We were a social networking platform. We wanted to be social gaming. We had no games. We had no credibility. But we were going into Casual Connect Seattle, and we wanted to draw as much and as big awareness as possible This is a totally different approach than targeting specific key audiences. We just needed to get the broad awareness to start to fill the funnel and, weed it down over time. So what we did is we had an event, we drew a lot of people to it, and it helped really kind of launch us off at the very beginning. We also had an amazing business development team and engineering team, and I really, accounted to a lot of the success of just having the right people at the right place. But in 6 months, through leveraging plays 1 through 4, messaging, customers, press, thought leadership, speaking opportunities, all of that, we got 130 games live in 6 months, and we had about 150 signed in that time as well, and I think that's pretty quick. Especially because this was social games. This is very different. It was a different market. This was just a few years ago. Mobile games, for example, it's a much bigger market, and there's a lot more developers out there, so it might not seem as big in comparison. So beyond this, there is ongoing lead generation program opportunities, and you might think of this as just advertising, but this is also content development, plays into communicating your messages and establishing thought leadership. It's an opportunity to test different messages and different offers to see what works as you bring more people in through the funnel. So in English and layman's terms, this says, oh my God, infographics. I'm a fan of internet memes, so I had to throw something in here. So my message here is you want to create content that people can share. Can they share an infographic? Can they share a video, a white paper, a presentation? You want them to share it out there with their boss or their colleague or their employees, and that they want to share. And in this case, it's either informative or entertaining. HubSpot, a marketing platform, reports that e-guides are the most, or e-books are and guides are the biggest performers of downloading. Basically, people want to download those the most often out of all the other types of content available. They're typically, they're typically 10 pages long or more about a specific topic, like how to improve your email marketing, response rate in 10 easy steps. And somebody will download that content, share it, and it will help get your message and your product out there, for example. So specifically, I wanted to highlight a campaign. This was for an IT security software, 9 critical threats to your business. And what it was is we had a new product that we needed to introduce in the market. It was a company that had been around for a while, and so we had a customer base, but they'd never heard of this product before. So our objective was to educate the audience and drive them to a webinar so that the sales team could then sell the product in more depth. So what we did is we launched an email campaign. We segmented our customer audience over 2 weeks and tried different messaging tests, and we improved the open rate from 5 to 15%. In a lot of cases, these were customers that hadn't heard from us in a while. So the improvements in performance was unexpected. But the 15% open rate was due to finding keywords that resonated with our audience around security, is what we found. We also ran ads on LinkedIn, and I highly recommend it because it's a bit more targeted than perhaps running ads on, not to say that there's an opportunity on sites like Gamasutra or Inside Network or other places where your target audience might be reading and learning about products like this. But I really liked LinkedIn because you could target by region, by title, by industry. You can get really specific, and that worked really well for us. And we drove everybody to a landing page where they could sign up for the webinar. We had, in this first webinar campaign that we ran over 2 weeks, we drove, I'm gonna say about 115 signups. 70 people showed up, which I thought was a pretty good rate. And the sales team was able to pitch the product to them. And take this from Glengarry Glen Ross. Some people might be familiar with this. This is Alec Baldwin's famous speech where he goes in to shake up the sales team and he tells them, coffee is for closers, people that really close the sale. This is, don't forget your ABCs, always be closing. And my message with this is essentially for all this content that you're creating, whether it's editorial or infographics or video or whatnot, there should always be some sort of call to action. You're always closing a sale. In our space, marketing is the sales team, and the sales team is the marketing team. They're very closely tied together. So don't forget to have a call to action, drive people to a landing page in as many ways as you can, and have them sign up and give you their information. So with that, I have an example of what it might look like if I was driving people to this presentation. And each component here can be tested. For example, the headline, the bullet points that tell you what you're going to learn. I included just an image of the deck, and then also the sign-up form. And why is the sign-up form important? Because it allows you to better vet the quality of the leads that are coming in. If you included information like what's the title of the person, how many people are in the company, what their industry is, just little pieces of information that if you're actually getting a volume of leads in, you don't want to spend your sales team's time on following up with leads that aren't going to be high quality in the end. So this is just something to keep in mind. So that's essentially the 5 plays that I wanted to cover today. Like I said, messaging, thought leadership, PR campaigns, forgetting them now, and lead generation. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to follow up. It was extremely informative and nobody has any questions. That's awesome.
Maybe I can ask a question. In your experience, what's the balance between reactive and sort of proactive support and the idea of evangelizing? If you've got a new product out there that is a very desirable product, how much do you create awareness by going out there and evangelizing and knocking on people's doors and saying, this is what you should be using, as opposed to be sitting there and waiting for people to knock on your door and then responding to those people? And is there a difference in the efficiency? If you're going out there pretty much pitching your stuff, you don't know what response rate you're going to get, whereas if people come and knock on your door, they're obviously very interested in your product.
They are. I mean, you do end up with different types of leads that way. I think that the evangelizing part, I think it at least opens, it's a different approach. It's opening up your funnel. It is spending more time tracking down leads that may not come to fruition because you are out there pitching, versus having people show up at your door. They're highly interested. For example, they have found you through Google search because they were specifically looking for something like, IT security, software. So then they came in that way. So they're typically highly qualified. They might be worth more to you in revenue in the long term than evangelizing. But if you can do both, I would recommend it. One way that you could do that with better qualifying your leads is creating specific content around those keywords and creating pages on your site, so that when somebody does do a search for keywords that are related to the content that you've put out, they're more likely to come to you. It's exactly what they're looking for. I hope that's helpful.
Any additional questions? Right in the corner. Oh, can we just wait for the microphone, please, just for the video? Thank you.
One of the questions I've got with regards to these is, how do you measure success for these different initiatives? Because I think, I don't think any of the initiatives up there would be particularly new to anybody in the room, but trying to work out for particular situations, for particular products, for particular markets, which are the most effective as you're going through a campaign. That's one of the things I've always found is a challenge, is actually, what's working. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, as long as you have tracking with your paid, let's take one component then. Public relations is really challenging to track. It can be more qualitative than quantitative. So, I do give the example because I believe in the strategy and the tactic of using it for brand awareness, for establishing the company's, leadership and getting the word out. But yeah, it's really hard to track the volume of leads that might come in because things tend to be word of mouth in that space. For paid campaigns, I don't have too many qualms about if you're using the right tracking tools to measure, which campaigns are working. If you're running different tests on that messaging, just change one thing to run an effect. I mean, if you want to get nitty-gritty on maybe testing, I would change one component and A/B test that way to find out what messages are working. More deeply, if you have somebody that is on your analytics team that can then take a look at the lifetime value of the user further down the funnel, more than just a sign up, that will also help. Does that kind of answer your question, or can you
it does.
break it down?
I think one of the things I find interesting about these sorts of initiatives is almost agreeing what to measure. I mean, should it be, at the end of the day, the number of people who sign up for an SDK,
sure,
or is that too far down the pipeline? And so it's understanding what are the different things that one should track to even gauge success.
Yeah. No, I agree. You should know exactly what success means to you when you're establishing your metrics and determining, okay, what do we want to achieve with this campaign? I would say that more of like filling the funnel approach that we've kind of talked about here is a little bit more early stage than somebody who has a company that's been running and you've got a base of customers over time. Like, for example, with the high five example, we just needed to get broad awareness and get people through the funnel to figure out who are our most valuable customers. A little bit further down the line, I think you would have at that time more metrics about what is a valuable customer to you. If it's the number of users or page views that they generate, for example, or a certain threshold of revenue that they drive, then I think you specifically have a better idea of who your target customer is, and then you kind of have to have totally different campaigns for them on getting more. There's going to be less customers like that once you actually get down to who the specific ones are that drive the biggest value for your business.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions for Kate? Okay, well, thank you very much for speaking. We have a 10-minute break, and we're going to start again at 1:30. Thank you, Kate.